Welcome in. Come on in. Let the aura begin. You guys are awesome. It's good to have you here on West Coast Uncensored. Honored to have you guys who connect all the time. Spread the news and share the video. And if you can, so we can increase with better equipment and stuff, and just help me out with doing this. It does take time, and I would like to add some stuff here and even upgrade to how I even do these videos, and what I use, what I pay a month to use to what I would like to use, which I would like to be able to do it monthly. It's kind of upgrade to who I use for making videos. But besides all that, if you can, you can. If you can't, you can't. But I say if you do, double, your giving, come back to you twofold, if not more. Abundance. Boost your abundance. And I'll be right with you wanting your boosting, putting a good energy out. But here we go. I got another video. We talked and we had a video. We showed, just recently we had Seven talk about Elon and Marduk. And he said something that I had known before. And I said I'd get back with this video, and I'm doing it today. And I talk about maybe a little demon mode that was brought out by somebody very close to this man. So let's get started and get in. All right, let's start it. Let's get in. So this gentleman worked with Elon Musk. Elon Musk biographer says billionaire has a dark demon mode. Let's get in. Let's listen. It's about a 21-minute video. That's why I got in it quick. Let's do it.
Or the Ukrainian side tried the sneak attack. And I was there that night listening to him as he was telling me about it. I got the impression he had turned it off right that night, but I later realized it had been a policy to geofence Crimea so Ukraine couldn't use Starlink to attack it. But the Ukrainians did not know that. And so that night they're thinking it's working and they're dealing with him and they want him to make sure it would work. And he says no. He reasserts the policy that they cannot use it to attack the Russian fleet in Sevastopol. And of course, he's created the only communication satellites that seem to work. The Russians have knocked out all of the others. And that gave him an enormous amount of power to have this policy that it could not be used for offensive purposes in Crimea. I think afterwards, we were talking about it, he felt he almost had too much power, and he ends up making a deal with the U.S. government that he's going to sell a certain amount of military-grade Starlinks to the U.S. government so they get to make the decision of how it's used.
That was going to be my next question, because one of the things he could have done is immediately pick up the phone to the White House, to Jake Sullivan, and say, they're getting mad in Kiev that I've turned this thing off, or rather that it's not on for them, thwarting their attack. What should I be doing?
Here's how the average man's life would change if he never saw an ad again. Day one, he would install Pi on his computer without spending a dime because it's 100% free. Day two, he realizes how clean and clutter-free his...
Right, he does talk to Jake Sullivan, he does talk to General Milley, and eventually SpaceX works out a deal where these type of satellites are used by the military of the U.S., and they get to make these decisions. I think that Musk felt, and anybody can debate this if they want, if you have a sneak attack on the Russian fleet in Sevastopol, who knows what the consequences would have been. So he says to me, hey, how did I get into this war? I built this thing to do so people could watch movies and play video games. So I think even sometimes he's uncomfortable with some of the power he has.
Because that was my next question again. Does he seek that power, or is that power thrust upon him, and does it humble him when he realizes that he's got it?
Well, I don't think things humble him that much. But I think you've asked the larger question, that's right, is how come he has that much power? And you got to ask also, how is it that the U.S. military, all of its contractors, all these other private companies can't make satellites that can withstand Russian hacking?
Here's my thing. You have a government, NASA, that's putting millions of dollars a day, and then an independent guy can outdo you? My antennas go up on that one. You have a government, a NASA, with all these, supposedly, wink, wink, power to do something, and been taking, go look how much NASA takes in a day from our taxes. It's in the millions, high millions, daily, not 2 millions, not 3 millions. Go look it up. It's multi-million dollars daily. One more time, daily. And they can't figure out, but a government that's connected with all these different influences, scientists, and then this one guy can outdo him. That sounds like a movie to me. I don't buy it at all. Discerning? Let's keep going, man.
How is it that NASA and the U.S. government can't make rockets anymore that send things into the orbit? How is it that GM and Ford got out of the business of electric cars and Musk made something that's more valuable than the next 9 car companies combined? What is it that gives him this power? And what has happened to us, our society, that we're no longer able to make things like rockets that can go into orbit, and he can. So I think this power comes to him simply because he's the only person who's been able to build an internet in low Earth orbit, whereas everybody from Jeff Bezos to Viasat to others. If you look at U.S. military satellites, NASA can't launch them into orbit. They're too big. But SpaceX can. So he's the only person who can get U.S. military satellites into orbit. I think we have...
That sounds really shaky. You have to be under cognitive dissonance to even believe that to me. Sorry.
That others can't do these things.
But in that very moment, when he can decide the success or the failure
but let's keep
of this
listening. There's more
very
to come.
important naval operation from the Ukrainians, what does he do? How does he respond? And hence my question about him perhaps being humbled in that moment.
He has an apocalyptic view of the world sometimes. He believes things can go mightily wrong. And he believes that a nuclear war can happen. World War III could happen.
Is he apocalyptic view?
Right or wrong about that, but I know that he's always dramatic in the apocalyptic things that can happen. And that's what was going through his head.
Let's go back to his early childhood. How much of what he's doing now and how much of what he's achieved started...
If you go back on video, I did a video on Elon and his babysitter, which to me has more and more been proven to be facts, what she said, because they're asking about the childhood and they're going to listen to his childhood. This isn't what in the extreme she said, but this does lead to exactly what would come out of what this is.
In the playground of his schools in South Africa, where he was clearly very badly bullied.
He was socially awkward, a scrawny kid, beaten up all the time, and that caused a lot of scars. But the main scars were the psychological ones caused by his father, who was a brilliant engineer, but also a very Jekyll and Hyde-like character who would go into dark moods. So after Elon got beaten up once, it was in the hospital, almost unrecognizable. When he gets home, he has to stand in front of his father, who for more than an hour berates him and calls him stupid and takes the side of the person who's beaten him up. And so I do think that those demons are still dancing around in his head, and the little kid on the playground has become, a man-child now owning the world's biggest playground in some ways, which is Twitter or X.
So owning Twitter is owning the playground and basically conducting the play on his terms? Is that what that is about?
I do think that he had multiple motivations for buying Twitter. But when it really comes down to it, it was just impulsive. He's very impulsive at times. He didn't sort of think the whole thing through. He just knew that he loved being on Twitter, and he thought Twitter could get much better. It could have video. It could have a payment system. It could fulfill the vision that Musk had 20 years ago for a company he called X.com, which is now PayPal, which is not only a financial transaction service, but a financial service connected to a social media thing so that people could pay for content like this show or people could post videos. So I think that was his main driving force for buying Twitter.
I mean, the theme that runs throughout your book and therefore throughout his life is a certain playfulness. You know, he escapes from the bullying at school by playing video games or by inventing stuff. Is that really is that where the genius comes from? Escape through invention.
You know, there's multiple personalities of Elon Musk, just as there are of his father.
And that makes sense to me if he was abused like that. And some of me, you know, I mentioned it here, and I'm with some other people that the Marduk or even being really an AI, and I don't see AI as being something we're waiting to happen. I'm like 7, it's here. It's the robot is the AI. The robot is the alien. That word, the name Elon is connected in etymology. Alien. Elon alien. It is. But most people who had gone through what he did in these beatings would be fragmentation. It would be hard to create. Follow me. They would be kind of stuck in this fragmentation. That's why we do soul work. That's why we do dark matter work on ourselves. We go deep in because we're trying to find the pieces to be better at creating in as this. But to have it after what his dad put him through, and then go watch my video 6-7 months ago about the babysitters. His babysitter talk about this, what she went through and what she observed being his nanny babysitter.
And there are times when Elon Musk is playful. There's times when he's trolling, which is almost like, you know, a sophomore sense of humor stoned in a college dorm room. You know, joking about, I'm going to get into a cage match with Mark Zuckerberg. You know, that was never going to happen, but it's part of his trolling, joking personality. But then he can turn very dark at times, and he can get very mean at times, and sometimes that's on Twitter too. He'll call a British cave diver a pedophile, or he will amplify some people from the fringes that he's now allowed on Twitter. So you can't say, what's Elon Musk's personality? You have to say the different personalities at different times.
Did you like him? Do you like him?
Well, there were some Elon, I mean, that's such an anodyne word, and people keep asking that question. I say, you know, there are Elon Musk that I liked and Elon Musk that I didn't. His girlfriend, one of his girlfriends, Claire Boucher, known as Grimes, said you got to make sure you're with the right Elon. There's certain Elons that are inspiring and certain that are charming, charismatic, certain ones that, you know, just are funny. But there are also times when, in a flash, he'll go into being a dark or conspiratorial or angry Elon. And boy, I didn't like those when I was around those Elons.
And could you believe all the different Elons you came across? Did you believe what those Elons told you?
You know, it's interesting. Sometimes Musk would say certain things when he was in demon mode. Just like his father, who had has a Jekyll and Hyde personality. And he would say things in dark demon mode. Sometimes really horrible things to people in front of him. And afterwards, when he snapped out of it, or a few hours later, I go back to him and I say, hey, what did you mean by that? Did you really mean it? Whatever. And he would almost have no recollection of what he said. It was almost as if he just switched from mode to mode.
I'll run it on a program.
Scary about someone who, as you put it, goes into demon mode now and again, wielding as much power as he does.
Yeah, I do think so. I think especially when he gets into those dark modes, it's been particularly problematic for what used to be known as Twitter, where he'll amplify people in dark modes, and it becomes a problem where he creates an environment that advertisers don't want. One of the themes of my book is, how did he achieve so much? How did he do it? How come his rockets can go into orbit, boost things into orbit, and then land upright and be reused again, where no other company and no other country has been able to do that? We've had a society that now has more referees than it has innovators, that it has more regulators than it has people who can get stuff done. And I think Elon's too much on the one side, that he's too risk-taking. But I think in some ways that risk-taking has gotten him where he is. And we need probably a few fewer referees and a few more risk-takers if we're going to have more groups that can send satellites into orbit and land boosters upright. I think that we're not very good these days at manufacturing and building factories in the United States. And one of the things that he has done that's not quite as exciting as Starlink in Ukraine or whatever is build factories and processes that can make not only an electric vehicle, but make 1 million of them at an affordable price. Not only can build Falcon 9 rockets and send up Starlink satellites, but send up thousands of them and churn, and why other companies haven't put up.
I'm looking for something more about
him. He prides himself, I'm assuming, as a First Amendment free speech advocate, and yet if you look at what he's done, he's put Trump back onto Twitter. He launched Ron DeSantis' campaign on Twitter. He's allowed Tucker Carlson back onto Twitter. You could be forgiven for saying that he definitely slants in one direction.
I think he put his thumb on the scale when he bought Twitter to its drawn between, yes, having a Donald Trump allowed to be infinitely opened up the aperture to more free speech, but at times he's hypocritical. He gets really mad when people use the platform to advocate boycott of Twitter.
Yeah.
So
to criticize taken by Elon Musk.
Well, first of all, Trump isn't actually using Twitter, so
he started. He's put his mugshot on Twitter.
Yes, I think I think Trump is a very disruptive, very, very chaotic person, and I think he would be bad for democracy for him to win. But I think it's a tough call about whether or not you're going to serve democracy.
That's enough. I thought he would say more, but he did bring out the demon mode and showed you he didn't remember. Let me get out of here. I don't want to hear any more of his political views of and where they're going. It's just more into politricks, and I don't want to talk politricks. Both sides are the same side of the same coin, just the opposite. One's heads, one's tails, but they're the same side. I do think we're going to see some changes that in politically. I'll also go into a little bit, but we went so far left. This wasn't your mom and dad's Democratic Party, your grandparents' the old saying. It was communism with all the stuff you see. I mean, that's how far from Obama and on, and before that, really pushing that. But it wasn't about. I didn't really want to go there. I was showing you the demon mode. He said, in that demon mode, that he would go off and not recall what he even did, and it was that's running on a program like an AI. And when I hear that and see that, I'm just like, kind of backs up when I go, I'm just not MAGA. I'm dark MAGA, which is dark magic, dark magi, and as we know, the very fifth degree in the satanic church is what? It is MAGA. It is MAGA. So, and this is not me saying, oh, you must be those from not. Both sides are. If I told you my political beliefs, both sides are sold out. We're not really voting for a president. It's a selection made by above us. When a little girl, I don't know if I did this video in the past, this little girl a number of years ago, not long ago though, maybe 13 to 15 years ago, in her school, 11-year-old girl in her school department, right, did a video, and she went and traced all the president's bloodlines and seen they were all, except one, related to one certain king in Europe. And then when you really see that, you realize the blue bloods never left. It's just hidden from us. See, there's the secret and the sacred, not knowing the knowledge kept from us. So when you really see it, it's not really, it's called an electrical college because it's about electrical energy. And I've even said this before, when you vote, when you cast a ballot, it's like casting a spell. Ballot is the feminine aspect of Baal God. So balat, you're casting a feminine aspect, which is really a spell. You're giving away your volt by casting a vote, which really is your energy is a volt of energy. You're giving it away now. You're being what the Red Hot Chili Peppers told you to do, give it away now. You're getting sucked out of your energy. It's like a succubus. So I just had to go there. But anyways, this is just still monitoring what he is, and it goes along with what Seven said about Marduk, about Seven mentioned demon mode. I had seen demon mode like a month ago to 5 weeks ago, and I thought about it and forgot about this video. But you guys have a great day, and we'll have some more. But remember what we just heard, demon mode, huh? You guys have a great day. We got more coming.